Alright guys, welcome back to the channel and we are here with the God of War PC benchmarks. Now, my specs are Ryzen 5 4600H with a 1660 Ti and 16 gigabytes of 3200 megahertz RAM. I have installed the game in an SSD, so the loading times etc. are all coming from an SSD. So keep that in mind. And also, one more caveat that I wanted to talk about is that obviously, after looking at the title in 1660 Ti, you might be saying, hey, this is not desktop performance. Well, for the desktop, just consider maybe about 5%, 5 to 10% more performance. Like I've overclocked this one, but unfortunately, my laptop's power management is a bit too strong. And so it sort of very aggressively downclocks the GPU. But I would still say expect about 5 to 10% more on desktop, and on laptop expect about as much performance as I'm getting here. So without any further delays, let's just get on with the video. Now, starting first with the lowest preset, and the fun thing that I want to say is it doesn't look bad. It doesn't necessarily look bad. It's just that eh, things are better when you move to original. I'm going to say that. But of course, with an average of around 70-ish, like we are getting 70 FPS-ish all the time, like not all the time, as you can see in some of the areas where it's particularly cutscene heavy, or like in some cases, in just some areas of the game where it struggles to keep the frame rate, it is still going to be above 60. So if you just want to, set the settings and forget about it, then yeah, maybe you should go for low. But even then, I would much rather suggest you go for the original quality settings, which I'm going to cover right now. So moving over to the original quality, the image quality is a noticeable improvement over low. And the performance, there is a very small hit, but there is a hit. So if you were getting some sort of performance out of your game before, you're going to get about at least like a 2 to 3% performance difference. So in my opinion, if you just want to, set it and forget it kind of thing, then I would definitely say go for the original settings. I mean, this is how the PlayStation looked originally, so it makes sense there. And I'm showing footage from like cutscenes and combat and a specific area of the game where I know that the FPS dips a lot. So in these three areas, original actually holds up pretty good. And with a few tweaks here and there, and when I say a few tweaks, there are actually a lot of things you can tweak. You can set the render resolution, which this game supports TAA. So essentially, it still looks good. Like even at 90% render resolution, it is a little bit blurry, but it still looks good. And of course, if you're on an Nvidia GPU, or I think even AMD has that option, you can just go into the control panel and sharpen up the image that way. Or maybe, there are a lot of ways you can tweak this game, and I don't think there should be any issues with the performance, especially if you have a 1660 Ti. And actually, I would say even go lower as like a 1660 Super, because, a 1660 Super is actually equivalent to the 1660 Ti laptop card. So around that performance, yeah, you will get 60 FPS very easily. Now moving on to high, and things kind of tend to get a little bit interesting here. Now I would still say this is a very playable experience. In fact, I would say if you do want this experience, play at 1080p, cap the frame rate at 50 hertz, 50 FPS instead of 60, and you will get a very consistent performance. Like right now, as you can see on your screen, like yes, the FPS sometimes dips down to the high 40s, like 47, 48, 49, around that range. But for the most part, it is still above 50, and the picture quality is genuinely better in that case. So I would say go for that and cap your FPS to 50, and I think you will have a generally better experience. And you should try that. And that is exactly what I am going to do, and I'll talk about that later in the video. Now, just for fun, just for science, I also tried the ultra settings, and well, it is playable. Like 1080p 30 FPS at ultra, it is very achievable in this game. And if you just cap it to 30, maybe you can play like that. And if you're, especially if you're someone who has played on console for a long time, and if you have played this game on a console before, I don't know, you might just be familiar with the 30 FPS cap. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend playing this game on 30 FPS. Like 60 is obviously better. But hey, if you ran out of options and you just want to see the game at ultra, you just want that visual experience and you don't really care about the frame rate all that much, then yeah, go for it. I personally don't like that. I at least need like close to 60. So what I'm going to do is my own optimized settings, which in my case is these. Now on your screen right now, you're looking at gameplay from this optimized setting. And once I cap it to 50, which I haven't because this is a benchmarking video. Once I cap it to 50, I can honestly get a very consistent frame rate. And you know what? I am fine with that. I am fine with that level of performance. Now to talk about the port itself. Now I feel like this is a really good port, and considering the fact that the last port that I did play was Horizon Zero Dawn, and well, it is good now, but the way it launched was not that great. And considering the fact that God of War is now on PC, and it runs kind of well. This is really good. This is actually really good, and I am now more hopeful that more Sony titles will come to PC and I will be able to play them. Now, as for the performance, I've seen some people talking about, hey, 1060 shouldn't be equivalent to a PlayStation 4. It's technically not, because Digital Foundry did a test and they found out that a 1060 pretty much runs the game close to 60 FPS on original settings at 1080p. Which is something I can corroborate because I am running at about 70-ish FPS, 70, 75 FPS. So it makes sense that way. So yeah, 1060 would be able to run it at somewhere close to like 50s and 60s. So it makes sense that way. And not only that, you also have to consider a few other factors. Some of them being, God of War was a PlayStation exclusive title that was made just for PlayStation 4. It did not use DirectX 11 as its API, as far as I know. Like, I am not sure which API it did use. I am sure it did not use DX11. DX11 isn't the most efficient in terms of APIs. DX12 and Vulkan are better. They put less load on the CPU. And those things do show up in the game. And after looking at that, and still seeing basically linear scaling from PlayStation 4 to PC, because a 1060 is about twice as powerful as a PS4 and it gets about twice as much the performance. Actually more, because one thing also you need to consider is that PlayStation has checkerboard rendering, something PC does not have. So for a GTX 1060 to get almost double the performance of a PlayStation at native resolution without checkerboarding, that's actually some pretty good optimization. So I would say this is a great port and they have done a really good job with this, and do more like this. And you know what? I predicted this will happen because if you remember when Microsoft first brought their first party titles to PC, it started with a disaster because Forza Motorsport 6 Apex beta, that was a disaster. The footage for which is still on my channel. Like if you look back a long time ago, is there somewhere, and it's just terrible. Then there was Forza Horizon 3, which was also terrible at launch. At least they kind of salvaged it with an update. So considering that, Sony is pretty much on the same path because Horizon Zero Dawn was terrible. Then Days Gone came out and it was okay. And now God of War is genuinely good. So good job there. Good job, Sony. And I feel like I've genuinely made a really great investment with this game. And I would recommend you do the same. So if you have a 1660 Ti, hell, if you have any mid-range budget card, and let's say if you're lucky enough to snag one of those new laptops with an RTX 3050, or maybe when the RTX 3050s do launch later in the month, maybe you grab one of those for your PC and you have an RTX 3050 now, I would say play it with DLSS and this will be a really great experience. If you have a DLSS enabled card, definitely use DLSS. If you don't, well, we are kind of screwed about that. Nothing we can do because I have a 1660 Ti. I would have loved to play with DLSS, but unfortunately nothing I can do there. So yeah, overall, my impressions are very positive, and of course, I will put out more content on my channel. So do subscribe to my channel for more content, for more benchmarking content. Like this year is going to be ridiculous as far as it comes to games. So there's going to be like one of the benchmarking videos almost every month this time. So yeah, there are a lot of games coming to my channel, so do subscribe for all of that content. Like this video if you like it, and share it around if you want to, give someone advice about a 1660 Ti or something. And yeah, all that said though, I will leave you guys in peace.